Hello and welcome to this session. We will be discussing international marketing strategies, and we had been looking at the theories, trade theories. We had looked at classical theory, which is mercantilism, absolute advantage, comparative advantage, and we saw what is the difference between absolute advantage and comparative advantage. And then we moved on to the modern theory, and we had looked at factor proportion theory. So now we will be going to the next one, which is country similarity theory. Country similarity theory is it explains the concept of intra-trade, and this was propounded by Linders. And what he generally said was, a country will export its produce to a country which is very similar to it. Similar in what sense? Similar in GDP, similar in consumption, ability to purchase, right? So this was his theory. He suggested that companies first produce for domestic, and then what happens when they start exploring markets, they will only find other countries which are very similar to it. If I'll have to give examples, all along, all these years, we did not have any of the high-end cars in India. High-end cars is 50 lakh plus cars. Only now that market has opened up. So this in a way explains that they did not bring this product to India all along because it was not necessary. The people could not afford to buy. Those very few people who could buy it were in any case importing it, right? So this is what the theory says. He states that most trade in manufacturing goods will be between countries with similar per capita income. To check whether this is right or wrong, I had looked up at today's trading with India. India's largest trading partners with their total sums in billion US dollars, 2017 and 18, Wikipedia statistics. If you look at it, the trading partners import export, the highest is China, next is US, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Switzerland, Germany, Hong Kong, Indonesia, South Korea. If you look at the first 10, Malaysia, if you look at the first 10, you would realize that to an extent, only Indonesia is GDP to an extent similar to India. All the others are not. So if you look at it from today's point of view, this theory really doesn't make much of validity, right? Because the paradigm of exports and imports have completely changed. Paradigms of imports and exports have completely changed. So country similarity today doesn't hold water from the very statistics that we are seeing now. But nevertheless, know that there was a theory like this, and these are what is called the progression of thinking. This is how trade theories have progressed over the period of time. So country similarity from Linders, we realize from today's statistics, doesn't hold much of water, right? So the next theory that you would be seeing is PLC theory. PLC theory is something that we have studied in marketing, And this is also applicable to um, international marketing. So this theory was propounded by Raymond Vernon. He was in Harvard Business School, 1966. Even today it holds water. The theory, he says, there is a new product growth, maturity and decline or standardization. These are the stages that a product undergoes. There is a new introduction stage, growth stage, maturity stage, and that's what we have read. Here it is almost the same. New product growth, maturity and standard products. So in 1960, this theory was propounded, and how it is applicable to international marketing is, what are the applications, how it gets. The theory suggests that early in product's life cycle, all parts and labors associated with the product come from the area where it was invented. Let us take this product called computers. Initially, it was computers manufactured in US, and that is where it was, the parts, labor, everything happened there. Consumption happened locally. After the product became adapted and used in the world market, first the local people use, and then slowly the product goes and reaches the other countries. Once the product becomes adapted and used in various markets in the world, production gradually moves away from the point of origin. Why should it move away from the point of origin? Because the number of products that is manufactured is more, and you could replicate it in another country. Third very important thing is the intellectual property. People already know, there isn't much of a secret, it's already, people know about it, so they start manufacturing in other places. Computers, then they started manufacturing everywhere. Today, even if you go to JC Road, you can assemble a computer. So there is the intellectual property becomes, or the know-how becomes known to people. Whereas, does this happen to satellites? No, it doesn't. You understand? So in the product life cycle, it is still in the new product. So in that stage, what happens? It is a secret. Nobody wants to give away this new product, intellectual property, until somebody else learns about it. So if you look at the second aspect, in the maturing stage, what happens? Mass production techniques and development happen and foreign demand commences. So you look for a place where it is cheaper to produce, faster to produce, and reach those areas. If you look now in India, there is production, in China there is production, they produce, and you can reach the markets which are in and around. In the standardized production stage, production moves to developed countries and they start exporting. So this is product life cycle. So product life cycle diagrams, you see, it's very similar to what we have done in marketing. Phase 1 is the new product development. Phase 2, people start acquiring. Okay, we have new adapters, and then laggards are the ones who adopt very late. So you have second phase, third phase. So at which phase the export happens? At the third phase, where the local people are already consumed and where it is ready for sending it abroad. Okay, and other countries starts producing it. So this is the product life cycle model and its application to international trade. The last theory is called the global strategic rivalry theory. So if you look at strategic rivalry theory, for the first time there is a competition that enters into the school of thought. See how late, 1980. Till then, all the theories were talking about production, consumption, way people buy, how people export, import, and what kind of countries buy. Nobody spoke about the most important factor, which is rivalry. So the first time rivalry or competition in the international markets was propounded by Paul Krugman and Kelvin Lancaster. So what this theory says is, they say that there is a huge competition out there. Firms will encounter global competition in their respective fields. Okay? The critical way that firm can obtain a sustainable competitive advantage, okay, how they will be able to get that competitive advantage. These competitive advantages are the barriers to entry. Okay, the more the competition, the more difficult it is to enter into the market. If you look at the Indian market in 70s, 80s, there wasn't much of competition in the car segment. Only Maruti was there. But today there are so many international companies which has come and set up their units over here. So the barriers to entry, so there is more competition. There is stiff competition. So what are the barriers? What is this competition? The competition is research and development. They have very good properties which are very unique. Okay, so you will not be able to enter into that market, right? So this is how it was. There R&D in the Indian scenario? It was not much at that point in time. So the international companies found it easy to come and invest in India. Number 2, the ownership of intellectual property right. We just had only one brand, and the entire market was with them. So whereas if you see Toyota and other companies, they had already set up so many units in other international countries, and then they had the product fit for the Indian market. Unique business processes or method, as well as extensive experience. So if you look at the bike market, why would a company like Honda, which were masters in production, come and tie up with the Indian company Hero? Because of extensive experience. Yeah, the Hero Indian counterpart, they already had a massive structure in terms of delivery, in terms of market penetration, showrooms, dealers, distributors, right? So when there was a collaboration between Hero and Honda wanted to make use of this Indian market because they did not know about the Indian market. So that is the thing, experience, right? Next one is the control of resources of favorable access to raw material. So any new, now if you look at, let us take some examples now, strategic rivalry. In India, the oil exploration. it is there is a huge market available, whereas there are barrier restrictions from the government, right? So if you look at arms and ammunitions, restrictions from the government. So barriers of entry can be these four things that is told by Paul Krugman, which is research, ownership and intellectual property. These the local companies will have all these things. Hence, there will be a difficulty in entering these markets, right? So the international company will have to collaborate with the local companies and enter this market. This was his theory, and if you look at it, it holds good even today. Any player who wants to get into a new market, it's always better to collaborate with them to learn the market, even if you have the best product. So Honda had the best product, but then they came in over here, they collaborated, and after the collaboration generally is signed for 5 years, 10 years. After that, once they learn the market, they are on their own, which is exactly what happened in terms of all the automobile companies. So we have seen trade theories, classical theories and modern theories, or neoclassical theories. Under classical theories, we have seen mercantilism, absolute advantage, comparative advantage. And then under modern theory, we have seen factor proportion theory, country similarity theory, product life cycle theory, global strategic rivalry management theory. So rivalry theory says that there will be barriers because of extreme competition in a country, and the foreign company will have to collaborate and enter into these and break the barriers and enter into these markets. So with this, we finish the second unit under module 1, and tomorrow we'll be looking at cultural, social, political, legal forces and how they impact international marketing. This also is not very new to you all, because you have done this umpteen number of times in marketing management, but nevertheless we will just have a short session because the examples here will be different pertaining to international markets. Thank you very much.